Welcome to LC Screen Talk. My name is Larry, and this is my review of Midway. Midway is a World War II epic drama from the epic director himself, Roland Emmerich, in which we follow flight pilots and other U.S. military forces as they try to crack the code post Pearl Harbor in an effort to thwart Japanese attacks moving forward, particularly the attack on Midway base. So, Roland Emmerich is known for big, bombastic films, and just from the trailers, I think you can tell that's kind of what he brought to the screen here yet again. Now, full disclosure, I'm not the biggest fan of war films, and especially over recent years, Roland Emmerich has been a whole lot more miss than he's actually hit. But I can enjoy a big spectacle. I can have fun with these really epic, grand movies, and even in today's day and age, I don't know many who do this kind of big film better than Emmerich. I don't know that I was necessarily excited for this film, but I was definitely open to see what it had to offer. And ultimately, I think it was fine. It was okay. So let's go ahead and kick off with the positives. Well, my biggest positive of the entire movie actually is Roland Emmerich himself and his direction of the film. My favorite thing, actually, about the movie was this kind of vintage, really hyper stylized way that Emmerich made the film. It has a very distinct style, in many ways, kind of a retro-y look to it, but it just worked for me. The color palette really worked. It's a weird blend of hyper style, but a slight desaturation, but I thought it looked great. And Emmerich still knows how to give spectacle. These big war moments flying through the sky, these battles, these attacks, all looked fantastic. And all of the special effects in this movie are great. So when it comes to large-scale war filmmaking, this is it. Emmerich delivers on that promise. I do think the score is also really solid. It gives you that big bombastic sound that you're hoping for and helps to build up some of the tension and then kind of push you into the big cheer type of moments as well. For the most part, I think our actors do a serviceable job. I don't think anybody is great in this movie by any means, and some of them we'll talk about here in a second. But Ed Skrein does well enough in our lead. We don't really get to see him as a hero very often, though kind of an asshole hero, so still in line with Ed Skrein. Luke Evans is solid, as he usually is. Woody Harrelson is good. Dennis Quaid is good. Most everybody delivers what they need to deliver in a serviceable enough role. I wasn't as familiar with this Midway battle, and certainly wasn't as familiar with the heroes, the real life people who were responsible for saving so many lives. And I think that bit at the end was the most effective for me, actually. And that's often the case, but especially in a film like this, getting to see the faces of the people, getting to hear some of their story at the end of the film, really kind of put some of the aspects to the actual movie a little bit more into perspective. But unfortunately, that's where the positives end, and we have to get into the negatives here on the movie. And the biggest negative for me was the screenplay. I really think this was a weak script, riddled with cliches, riddled with just generic blah dialogue. They all just talk like cliche, stereotyped war folk, whether it be in the war rooms, whether it's the soldier banter back and forth. All of it is just so textbook and so bland. Going right along with that, there's no character development, really. They try slightly with like Ed Skrein's character, and that's about it. That's the only one they even try with character development on. And even his, it's not really there, honestly. They fail at character development across the board, which becomes a big problem in a movie like this because they want you to care what happens to these soldiers, and of course you do because you're a human and you don't want to see people die. But also, you don't really care because You don't really care about these people. We don't learn about them other than the fact that they have wives. The wife back at home. So when we get to these big emotional moments or these tense moments that you're really supposed to be holding your breath for these people, you're mostly just like, wow, that looks beautiful. Because these are really just stereotypical shells on the screen instead of real characters. And jumping right off of that, I want to bring attention to Nick Jonas and his character. I don't know what the point was, honestly. I really think Nick Jonas was put in here as stunt casting because he wasn't that good in this movie. Sorry. And the character itself was just like, what in the world? Like, what's the point of this? We went off onto all these little tangents with all these little characters, and most of them you end up just being like, what was the point of this? It's also way too long. This is almost 2.5 hours long, and it doesn't need to be that long. 2.5 hours without any sort of emotional attachment or care about the people involved makes it really difficult as you move through to stay invested, because you know how it ends, you know where we end up at the end of the day. So the journey there looks pretty, but your mind can't help but start to wander off to other things because and once you get to that 2.5 hours, you're like, oh my gosh, okay, time to go. This lasted way too long. There's way too much dead space that could have been cut out of this one. Also, the story itself is a cliche. It's very stereotypical. You call the story beats from a million miles away, right down to last second moments or saves. And then you have like the asshole who saves the day type of character in Ed Screen. All of it just goes by the book. We've seen this film over and over again, honestly. So in the end, Midway is a fine enough placeholder for war movie fans. If you just enjoy war movies or these big over-the-top action films, if Roland Emmerich films are your jam, I think you'll have fun with this movie. It has that overlong, big, over-the-top Roland Emmerich feel to it. So if that sounds like fun to you, then I actually say you have to see this in theaters. Because if you're going to go out and see this movie, if you are interested genuinely in seeing the film, I think it must be viewed on the big screen. That's where you will get the most out of your experience. So probably if it's showing in IMAX or it's showing on a Dolby screen near you, that's how you should see it, because that's how you'll get the most effect out of it. However, if war movies aren't your thing, you can just completely bypass this one. It doesn't bring anything new to that genre. And we've just seen this story so many times before, and this one just isn't up to the level of the best war films, certainly. So that is my review of Midway. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead, click like down below and subscribe to the channel so you are always up to date on my latest videos. Also, join in on the discussion. Are you excited to see Midway? And what is your favorite war movie? Let me know either in the comment section down below, or you can hit me up on Twitter. I love you all so much for your continued support. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!